All right, guys. Hey, it's Pete, and I hope you guys are doing some great work as financial coaches. And I wanted to talk to you today about a conversation that I have on the regular, really. And it's usually financial coaches that are worried about sharing their opinions in financial coaching sessions. And the example that came up was that one of my financial coaches has been working very hard to pay off his house early. It's actually something that I believe in a lot because, a house is your biggest expense. It's probably your biggest debt. It's going to usually incur, regardless of the interest rate you're paying, a very large amount of interest that you're going to pay over the years. It's a large cash flow drain, on a month to month, et cetera, et cetera. And so I love the idea of paying off your house early. I love the idea of paying off any debt early if you want to, right? So it's not something where I'm against it. And in fact, I usually encourage it, and I've got a lot of different strategies for paying off any debt early. But what this coach was worried about was saying, it's important to me. It's something that I'm working on. It's something that it sounded like would be helpful to this person, and they kind of were interested in it, but I didn't want to just go whole hog and kind of sell them on it because it's something that I'm doing personally. I didn't want to try to convince them that this might really change their life because that's not something necessarily that they were asking really that much about. And my issue here is that I want to separate personal conviction from convincing clients of something. All right. So they're different. You can use your conviction to try to convince people of things, but they can also be separate. In coaching, I think it's fine to have convictions about stuff. Especially if you're not necessarily trying to convince them, because if you're trying to convince someone of something that you have conviction on and they're not convinced, you're going to feel like a failure as a financial coach, if that makes sense. All right. So let me give you an example here. I do believe in paying off your house early if you have a mortgage. I just like it. It's not something that you have to do. It's not something that you have to set up as a priority. Some people want to keep re-extending their house out, keep refinancing, pushing that out. And I totally get that too. Like some people say, hey, I want the asset itself to collateralize the debt on it, because actually if you default on your mortgage, you really don't lose anything. The house goes back to the bank, right? So I totally get that too. So I feel that's fine. If that's what you believe, then I'll help you figure out how to do that too. So some people just keep pushing out mortgages. That's fine. But I really believe that, if you can own your house, you can get that paid off, you can free up the cash flow, you've got that done. It's something that you can feel good about. You don't have to worry about particularly how the real estate industry is going and what home prices are doing and interest rates and all of that, right? So I love that. And so when someone says, hey, to me, I've been thinking maybe I should pay a little off towards my house. A lot of people say, hey, I got my Christmas bonus or my performance bonus, or I got my tax refund. I'm trying to figure out where to put it. And I was thinking maybe I should just pay it towards my house. And yeah, I think that's fine. I mean, you can do other things with it too. But just because I have that conviction on it, and I can say, listen, this is something I've been working on for the last few years, is to pay off my house early, making good progress on it. It feels great. It's almost crazy as you get down to the last few $1,000s of your mortgage to think, hey, I'm 10, 20, 30 years sometimes ahead of schedule on paying this off. It's very freeing. I love it. I will testify to all those things where it's kind of amazing. As you get down to those last few dollars on your mortgage, it's pretty invigorating, especially when maybe your peer group has all just started their 30-year mortgages, or they just refinanced, and you think, man, I've got 2 years left, or versus my friend's 28 years, or whatever it might be, right? How big of a difference that is. So I can speak to the power of what it feels like and how motivating it is and how enticing it is when you get there, right? And, how much more freeing it is in your mind, and how it frees up so much your budget. You can go on the vacations that you want. You can start saving for retirement with that cash flow that's not being taken up on a mortgage payment. I can have conviction on it without necessarily telling them you should do it too, right? Now, if they're like, yeah, I really do, that sounds amazing, I want to do it too, now you can help convince them. Be like, you can say, if that's something you want to do, here's some other reasons that you might want to do it, right? I mean, if you have other debt, or if you are worried about how much you're saving for retirement, or you want to save for your kids' college or something like this, so getting rid of all these other debts can allow you to free up that cash flow and focus more on some of these other things. And you can certainly do that. But what I'm saying here is that I've played on this one side of it. I've played on the conviction side. I've told you the benefit of it. I've told you why I did it, what I'm getting out of it. I have shown you that I'm convicted of this, and you can decide if you want to be convinced of doing it. The difference about blending your conviction and your convincing is now you're in a sales role, right? I can tell you all that, and in my mind, I might be telling you that because I have a program. Maybe I just want an additional coaching session with you to walk through some of these strategies, whatever. So if I'm trying to push you to believe this using my conviction and you choose to ignore it, like I said, now I've made this great case. I've told you how excited, how enthusiastic, how passionate I am about this. And you said, well, I'm not really, I'm fine having my mortgage. Actually, I like being able to write off my mortgage interest on my taxes. All right. Well, then all of a sudden it's kind of deflating. You're like, well, I just opened up my heart about why I'm so excited about, something and what it's done for me. And they're like, yeah, no. But you can still have that conviction, and they can say that thing. And if you're not pushing them, if you're not trying to convince them to do it themselves, then that's fine. And they might come back at some point in the future and say, I want to do that. I've done that with the mortgage thing before, especially for people who are in the FI community. A lot of them want to pay off their mortgages. Sometimes a lot of them want to pay off everything but their mortgage. So, I've talked to some people and I've said, hey, listen, paying off your mortgage can be a really great, powerful thing. And they're said, yeah, I don't think, I'm not really worried about that. I actually don't mind that. The interest rate is great. Okay, sounds good. Nothing lost for me, right? And but I've never built a course on how to pay down your mortgage early. It's actually something I've thought about because I've kind of put together so much information on it that I could probably put it into a course. But if I know that I'm trying to convince them to do that, to take my course or something like that, and they don't, it's a failure, not a success in my point. So can you have conviction about something? I just use the mortgage example as, you might have a conviction on, any type of strategy that you're using that's changed your life. Maybe you have a side hustle that's changed your life. Maybe you have downsized or geo arbitrage. You've moved to a different place. Taking a remote work position, and then you have moved to the place of your dreams. You've moved to Hawaii and you're living great, and whatever it might be, you can have conviction. I think a lot of financial coaches are just worried about sharing something that they're doing personally because they think subconsciously that if they don't take that idea and adopt it themselves, that somehow they don't believe you don't have the credibility, they aren't convinced of you. You don't have to do that. You can have conviction. Paying down any debt, right? Or maybe working with a debt management company. I'm a big believer that some people need that. Other people don't. Other people should do it on their own. But I've seen some people have such good success with it, just from a mental health perspective, as well as paying off their debts within 5 years, that I can tell them about, some of the people that I've worked with who have had great results with it. It's just been freeing to them. And then when they get on the other side of it, man, how much they've learned from it and how they won't make those same mistakes again, right? I can speak to them about that process with conviction. Now, if they want to do it or not, I have nothing on the hook. I'm not personally invested in whether they choose to do it or not. And so at that moment that I share that with them and they say, yes, I want to do that, or no, I still don't think that's for me, that's fine. I have nothing personally vested in that. So wherever they want to go on that, that's fine. So what I'm saying is that you can have your conviction. You can share your enthusiasm. You can share kind of your personal stories on stuff. Financial coaching to me is not a place where you have to shy off something that you really like, that's worked great for you, and not say it because it's going to come off as salesy, right? It's only going to be salesy if you are trying to convince people and you are going to be let down if the outcome of that conversation is not what you wanted. So yeah, totally have conviction on the stuff that you are convicted about. Maybe a way you made money, maybe a way you paid off debt, maybe you retired early, or I don't know, raised your kids, got them into college, life hacked something, whatever it might be. I think especially clients that see you are living by what you're doing, even if it's not something that they want to use personally for themselves, still appreciate that, still appreciate someone who's really passionate about kind of the process and the lessons of personal finance. So anyway, that's it. Conviction without convincing. That was my whole point there. Be happy to dive into more details about this if you want to, but hopefully that helps. I'll see you later.